This video is brought to you by Kempower, the reliable, quick, and scalable EV charging solution for everyone and everywhere. And this video is also brought to you by StarCharge, the largest EV charging manufacturer in the world. They are also a provider of residential and commercial battery storage with microgrid solutions.
Hello, welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews range test. I have with me right here the range king of EV9s. That's right, this is the EV9 Lite long range with the big battery. It's rear wheel drive. This thing should in theory be the longest running EV9 on our range test, our standardized 70-mile-an-hour range test. Now you might be wondering, why am I at Electrify America? Well, this is just a few miles south of our usual starting stop, and those charge point units are all completely dead. They don't work, completely just unavailable. So had to cut down here, went ahead and tweeted, let ChargePoint know in case they somehow didn't, but I guess they've been down for 11 days. I just didn't check PlugShare because they usually work pretty well. But I am wrapping up charging here. We are charging to 100% state of charge. Again, this is the rear wheel drive with the big battery. That is the 99.8 kilowatt hours. I think that's gross technically. And it's actually lit lower voltage than the other smaller battery EV9. And because of the lower voltage, we have a little bit less power. This is a 201 horsepower or 150 kilowatt motor. That's not a lot of power for the 5,300 pounds that this SUV is. But this is a 3-row SUV. So this is probably the cheapest way you can currently get an electric 3-row SUV. Now this is actually, we'll see, 59 grand as tested. So about $4,000 more than the EV9 Lite small battery, which starts at 55. But that's really not bad. This is under 60K for 3 usable rows. That's his back seat back there. We've done a lot of videos on this. Kyle's done a full walk around. I did the official press drive with the GT line out in California. And even Max and I just recently did a trim comparison across all the different trims. So definitely check out those videos. I'm not going to focus on that for this. The focus on this is how far can we go from 100 to 0. So with these range tests, we start here in northern Colorado, head up into Wyoming, and then across Nebraska a bit, and turn around just above 50% state of charge or so. Now, Kyle has already done a range test with the EV9 GT line. So we're kind of spreading the difference here. He did what is probably the least efficient large battery pack EV9. I'm doing the most efficient. This is the one that they use to claim their over 300-mile EPA stated range, which on their website, and according to all the materials, is 304 miles. Kyle's EV9 he tested had 270 miles as the quoted EPA range, and he did like 266. Very impressive. Part of that was because he was able to go so far below 0, it was ridiculous. So I'm gonna try to do something similar here. Maybe not push it quite that hard. We'll see. I'm still gonna pull in like absolutely dead because I really want to get everything out of this. I'm really pushing for 300 miles. We'll see if that actually happens. Conditions are perfect. It is like in the low 40s, mid 40s, and it's about the exact same that Kyle tested his in. So we're kind of doing apples to apples comparison. Now, technically we're starting at different chargers a few miles apart from each other, but that really shouldn't affect our test at all. So this is going to be fascinating. Oh, everyone wants to know about the frunk, because the one I saw on the GT line, all the upper trims, basically anything with all-wheel drive has a tiny frunk or a frubby front cubby. This one's actually pretty usable. Now the wide angle lens is making it look a little bit bigger than it actually is, but totally awesome. This is like 3.2 cubic feet, so not quite double the small frunk on the all-wheel drive models that have a front motor impeding on this space. This is where you can access the air filter, the 12-volt battery. There's a lot of people talking about 12-volt batteries lately with Kia. You also don't get the cool cube type of full front lighting for the headlight assembly. You don't get those fancy L lights. There's a few things you don't get. You can't even get the nice colors. With the light model, you are limited to basically black, white, and different shades of gray, I guess. No matte colors. And I am on 19-inch wheels. These are the kind of Aero-esque wheels, very few holes in them. So you also have triangular wheels, which are 20s, I think, 21s, and then 22s on the GT line with the 4 spokes. So these are your base wheels. They are Kumo, or Kumo, whatever they're called. Krugen HP 7.1, I don't know, basically some all season tire, 255/60 R19. They are all perfectly filled to factory spec, which is 38 psi cold. So we are going to run this as scientifically as possible. And just like that, we have finished. So unplugging, putting this way over here. You do get power folding charge ports on all EV9s, even this base model. So yeah, they give you quite a bit bang for your buck. That's kind of my consensus so far. I can continue commenting on this, but we are going to jump in, get ready to go. So jumping in, it says we have 322 miles of estimated range. I'm gonna fire it up with a super weird, this torpedo is like flying out of the center console or steering rack there. It's super weird. The power button is down here. Kind of strange, but the key is super cool. This has a really fun material on it. I really like this key, big fan. Feels, I mean, kind of cheap, but kind of premium, kind of like the interior material of a Ford Maverick. That's exactly what this is. You don't get the smart, you know, drive forward and backward creep situations here, but we are heading into drive. So per usual, we're keeping the temperature between 68 and 72. We are going to head out now. Now it says 313 miles of estimated range. So it's still kind of calibrating the situations here. But yeah, keeping the eco or the climate on as eco-friendly as possible. So auto on the lowest setting. And we have driver only. So that's pretty cool. Now we don't get any sort of sunroof situation in this base model. But that's okay. And in fact, we'd probably keep it closed on a charging test or a range test anyways, because we don't want any additional loads that the ambient temperature needs to be fought. But we are going to head out here into 25 and then head north. So we're just going to kind of creep around town slowly. We're only like a half mile from the highway, so it's not quite as close as our Wellington location, but pretty darn close. And I will be keeping regen on 3. I'm not going to go to iPedal, even though I could in this car and it wouldn't really mess up the test at all because I don't have a front motor. Kyle kept iPedal off because the front motor would be engaged for regen because that was a dual permanent magnet motor. This being only a singular rear permanent magnet motor, not having to worry about that as much, but to keep it as close to as fair as possible. We're really trying to take advantage of this perfect weather and try to make it as close to an apples to apples test as we can. I would also like to point out this is the eco drive mode. We always drive in the most eco-friendly drive mode. And even though this car has heated and ventilated seats as standard in the front row, so awesome, I will be keeping those off because we always keep those off in our range test. We have all the stats reset here. There is also a sport mode, a normal mode, even a snow mode, which is interesting because it's not an all-wheel drive, so that may just be some differences with the traction control and also probably regen. You don't want heavy regen in the snow. As far as other trim differences, you do have an auto-dimming rear view mirror as standard, which is great. But the side mirrors are not auto-dimming in the base model. I think they are heated, so they're like defrosting capable, that's the right word. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, you still get a lot of things that I think most people would care about, such as the highway drive assist, HDA, fantastic system. We'll talk about that here in a bit on the actual open road. And yeah, the screens are all the same. You know, you don't get smaller screens like you do in some other companies in the base models. So I think Kia really is giving you quite a bit of a good offering with even the lower priced EV9. Ramping up very gradually to 70 miles an hour. And set cruise. Fortunately, 70 miles an hour indicated is 70 miles an hour GPS accurate. Another great thing Kia did correctly. You have all these symbols up here that look a little funky. I don't know. It's not the most clean way to tell you that you have HDA on, but they're effective. That just means lane centering, active lane centering. The steering wheel is a similar thing. It's interesting. You have active lane centering with cruise control, but you also can do lane centering without cruise control. So basically you control the throttle and the car will actually stay in the lane, which I really love. I didn't expect to love that feature as much as I do. So I wish every car had that now. I can't wait to do a range test with the light small battery just to see how different it is. Will it be like a situation where it was like Rivian Max Pack versus normal, or will it be more noticeable in the difference on the highway? We'll find out. I will check in with you guys at our usual, 75%, 50%, 25%, and of course when we turn around roughly halfway through the battery pack. This should be fun. This should be very interesting. I know a lot of you have been wanting to know what the range is on this thing, because this is the one they use in the marketing materials to say you get up to 300 plus miles of range. By the way, I was a little rushed for time back there because it filled up, it got to 100%, so I wanted to get on the road immediately. But I do want to mention I'm also using the OBD scanner app that Kyle was using, so we can tell a few additional details here. I'm watching the road, so I'm just going to let you guys look at the screen while I discuss it. But yeah, about 93% state of charge in the BMS. Battery temperature is about 22 degrees. And of course, the battery voltage is low 600s. So that is kind of a hot topic with this car, is the battery voltage. It's claimed 800 volt architecture, which is kind of a classification, more or less. This is not an 800 volt battery system. The battery runs around 550-ish in terms of what they advertise as the official average capacity. Now, of course, higher, like right now, the low 600s when it's full, should be less when it's dead. And then the same with the smaller battery is actually a higher voltage system. So that's going to be mid 600s in the middle, and then maybe a bit higher, closer to 700 when it's full. We'll find out. We're going to do a lot of testing with a small battery because we're pretty interested in that specifically. Because for a lot of people, your 3-row SUV is your run around town car. You may not even be road tripping with it. Even then, I would actually love to do a road trip with the small battery just to see how much it hurts. Like maybe we should do a race to Vegas with the light trims competing against each other. That'd be fascinating. Let us know what you guys want to see between the two batteries. And honestly, I'd love to do more cars like that. Just figure out like, okay, is the little versus small battery that much different? You do have to pay, like I said, about $4,000 to $5,000 extra for the bigger battery. And then if you want all-wheel drive, that's where the next trim comes in. Again, we've all covered this. We've covered all this in the trim comparison video, but it is fascinating to think about when you have all these options and trims. It's a lot to consider when you're making your decision. So I get it. Buying a car is stressful. Here is our normal starting place where the charge point chargers are all deceased. Oh, they're just not working right now. Conditions, like I said, are looking pretty good. We're at about 50 degrees Fahrenheit up here right now, which is solid. And the wind is about nothing. There's like no wind. In Nebraska, we may hit a tiny bit of crosswind, but we'll keep an eye on that as we head up there. Got my Starbucks to help me along the way. It is not obviously anything like Kyle's order. Mine's very simple. It's the lightest roast they have available on drip coffee. So, black, nothing in it. Also, while we're down here, I love this feature. If you weren't aware, the EV9 has a really awesome feature of the driver's side, like quote unquote main USB-C port, lets you control whether it's charging or data and charging. I did verify all the ports in this car give you 25 watts of charging, which I think is fine. It's not ultra high speed at all, but it is technically higher speed than I guess what we would mostly consider normal charging. And this lets you, turn data off. So in this case, I'm charging this Android phone that uses our car scanner thing, and it's not trying to interface with the phone. It's not trying to bring up Android Auto. It's fantastic, really is. The built-in system itself feels a bit Android Auto-y. You can tell they took some design inspiration from that. These are both 12.3 or 12.8 inch screens. A little 5-inch screen in the middle for climate control, which is interesting. Some of the climate control is down here. Other climate control is up here. Not really sure how I feel about it. I think it's fine. Once you own the car for a bit, you'll know where everything is, so you have to understand the learning curve aspect is just different for everyone, I guess. I do like how Kia doesn't use blanks to let you know what options you didn't get. So here, there would normally be a second button to the right that says 4-wheel drive lock, which means it turns on 4-wheel drive permanently. It doesn't mean like locking differentials. It's kind of misleading, but it just means, oh, we'll keep both motors on permanently. This just has a long drive mode button. Same with the door. Over here on the upper trims, you would have other options like seat memory, heated steering wheel, massage. There's a bunch of additional things missing, but instead of giving you blanks, they just kind of leave it empty, so you wouldn't really necessarily even know. I do like that approach. Okay, we are approaching 75% state of charge. I just realized I forgot to film when we crossed into Wyoming from Colorado, but we were at about, I think, 87% or something like that, so pretty close to 90%, which is pretty impressive. this thing seems fairly efficient. It is still kind of a brick. The design language of the EV9, pretty blocky. I think objectively good. For some reason, I compared it to the Cybertruck, and people freaked out. But it's nothing like the Cybertruck. It's just, this is a bit of a bold statement. The Cybertruck is more bold statement, and I wonder which one will age well. Should you go absolutely crazy like the Cybertruck, or play it a bit safer but still kind of conceptual? Because this looks kind of like the concept car that they based it on, which is impressive. It's a really nice ride. This does not have the rear air suspension that has the self-leveling like the higher trims, but it does have very well damped spring suspension, and the front glass by standard is double paned. You have to go the higher trims to get the rear glass that way, so maybe back there it's a bit louder than you would expect from the higher trims, but here on the entry level it's very nice up front. So if you are driving this, or maybe you're your passenger, I don't think you really get hardly anything with upgrading, because you still have nice acoustics up here. And even this standard sound system, this is not the Meridian, just the base 8 speaker system, not the 14 speaker Meridian, sounds totally decent. Not amazing, obviously, it's not the Meridian, but the Meridian is really good, but it's not like class leading per se, so I don't know. It'd be interesting if they offered it as like an optional upgrade just by itself, but no, it has to come with much higher packages for much more money. So if you're stuck with the 8 speaker, don't feel stuck with trash, because it's not. It's really solid for what it is. So we are just about to cross over our 75%. So we've used about a quarter of the battery pack. So down here you can see on the lower left, the battery is at almost 71 kilowatt hours. State of charge BMS says 73.5, whereas right here we just crossed to 75. And the battery temperature is down to 16 degrees. So that was a bit higher when we started. Preconditioning, by the way, can be done manually, which is fantastic. Home, EV, activate. That's where battery preconditioning is. Can't see the screen super well because it's glaring off of that bright sun, but awesome that it has a automatic, or not automatic, well it does have automatic preconditioning through route planning, but also manual, which is awesome. I wish every car had that. Yeah, a nitpick really quick, just while we're on the subject of things over here. These capacitive buttons I don't like. Now, they are better than a glossy black screen or material. Like, imagine if it was piano black with capacitive buttons. It'd be horrible. It's just fingerprint city. It's funny, they didn't give you piano black on the steering wheel. It's piano dark gray. So still fingerprint, but not quite as showy as the piano black. And the doors, actually, the higher trims, here is piano black, but here it's a matte black, which I much prefer. So no piano, or sorry, not piano black, piano gray. So no piano material at all on the doors, which is fantastic. So yeah, you can see on the fingerprint ridden screen, my default behavior would be to set my finger here to then I guess tripod myself to use the screen better, and you can't because you keep using buttons accidentally. So I'd say back to the drawing board on that. This looks very clean, but I just wish these were like real buttons, maybe below the ledge, like push on them or something. I don't know. Everyone has this weird obsession with capacitive buttons, and I don't understand it. I prefer capacitive, or just normal buttons. But what is also capacitive is the steering wheel. Steering wheel is nice and capacitive. This HDA system, standard on the base model, works fantastically. So it just automatically changes lanes for me and cancels the turn signal. Now, if you fully click down, you have to like cancel it yourself. But if you just tap, it works perfectly. So lane centering, adaptive cruise control, all the things you'd want in a daily driver or even a road tripper, this thing seems to have. It's really quite fantastic. The screens are plenty good. I just don't love the software. It's not bad, it's just not great. There's other better software out there, and there's also worse software. So take with that what you will, but at least it's fairly responsive. It's not glitchy and laggy like Mustang Mach-E tends to be sometimes, or some of the other systems. It's actually more on the responsive side. We are about to exit, but you can see here SoC BMS now at 55.6, which is much closer to the actual SoC there. So maybe that started higher and it's now going to be lower. We're going to be exiting at Potter, which is about 21 miles before Kyle exited, but Kyle was also 20-ish miles further north when I started. So we'll see. The next exit after this is much further, so this is really my only option. If I went all the way to the next one, I would literally have to hit EPA range on the highway to make it back, which I don't see happening. But I could be surprised. We'll see. Maybe I'll regret this. But there's a lot more exits to work with back closer to the charger, so I can maintain highway speeds much easier and have a lot more bailout opportunities than if I were to try to do that here and play with fire. Slow down here, getting off the highway, doing our turnaround right about 56%. That's usually a good time to do it. As far as conditions, we have basically no wind. Even the slight crosswind that was projected earlier is not really happening. So that's really great for us. Gonna switch around here, flip around. No traffic. We've had zero traffic, zero wind, zero construction. This has been an utterly flawless range test, like gonna be one for the books. 50 degrees Fahrenheit, sunny. You can't get much better than this, folks. Getting back onto the highway, we will ease back up to our 70, which is both GPS and car verified to be accurate. And because this is only rear-wheel drive, I don't have to worry about the front motor kicking in and cutting into my efficiency a little bit. It's just the rear motor. So ease back up here to 69, 70, and cruise control back on. There we go. And get back on the highway here. HDA2 re-enabled. I love that that is standard. It's such a good system. You can tell they're very proud of it if they are putting it on all the cars. So one thing you don't get, well, I guess a few things you don't get because of the lack of surround cameras, is the surround view. So no 360-degree camera. You're stuck with only the reverse camera, which is good, but you don't get the side cameras, which usually show up here when you do the turn signal. In this case, they don't, because there's literally no cameras on the mirrors. Yeah, no surround view camera, no front camera. So you are much more limited in that regard. For the back, as you can see, I'm not looking, it's just you. Eyes on the road. Captain's chairs, interesting, right? This is the base model, or the light trim. But if you want the bench seat, so 7 seats instead of 6, you have to get the base trim, the light with the small battery, or the wind trim, which has the large battery and all-wheel drive. So that's very interesting to me. I don't really know why they decided that. And when I was at the press drive in California, one of the journalists asked Kia, they were like, why are you not giving us the seating option regardless of price? Because there are, in their fair point, there's a lot of people with the premium budget for the GT line and also the need for more seats because of a large family. And so why would you make them choose between the seats they need and the equipment they want? And Kia's official response is, we are listening to our customers and we will make our decisions down the road based on the needs of our customers. So that's saying they're not ruling it out. They could very well add that later on. EV9 is just getting started. We don't know about future trims, what they will adjust. We've seen, following the EV6 trend, they've added some things over the years. So we'll see what happens. Of course, EV6 GT is out. We will get EV9 GT eventually, the spicy version, which will be so ridiculously fun and awesome. Can't wait to pit that against the Model X Plaid, Rivian R1S, and the like. But for most people, this is your more entry-level EV 3-row SUV. All right, we just hit 50% state of charge. We've done 142.7 miles. It's about 143, so we're on track for 286, which is more than what Kyle did, but I don't know if we'll actually hit that. We don't usually hit that. I have a bit of elevation to gain because I've gone downhill ever so slightly. So this will be interesting. Something I want to point out that may not result in crazy better range than Kyle is he may have a front motor that was, you know, mostly disconnected or almost entirely disconnected for that entire range test he did, and the less efficient wheels. But my car does not have a heat pump. The heat pump is not even possible on the lower trims. It's not like it's an option. They won't even let you get it unless you get a higher trim. I think the Land is the trim with the heat pump, maybe the Wind, but I think the Land is how you have to get the heat pump. So that could really affect my range a bit. Again, it's not freezing cold outside, but it's also not warm, so that would be more efficient, technically speaking. So we'll see. Yeah, I'll just be here with HDA, no heads-up display. It's a bit of a bummer, and you also don't get the parking features that I think I may have mentioned earlier, like the Smart Park and the key with the rolling forward and backward without you in it, or even the parking obstacle avoidance thing. That's not really an option on this either. So that's a bit of a bummer, but yep, ticking down to 49. We'll see if I make it back. We should. I'm sure it'll be fine. Oh, I just realized you also don't get the crazy fancy like rotating cup holders, but it still fits a Nalgene, which is just, that's like one of the main tests. Every 3-row SUV from now on, I'm going to test the Nalgene, I'm going to test the USB-C port speed. What else should be my standard 3-row SUV, or just test in general, honestly. I just wish every car had a Nalgene and decent USB charging speed. Now, I think I mentioned these are 25 watts all around the car. That's totally usable. And honestly, that's a great speed for charging a phone. I don't want to charge my phone that fast. I don't want it to overheat because it tends to get really hot if it's charging on really high speed chargers. Even 20 watts would be okay with me. I just wish there was like a dedicated, like 1 or 2 dedicated like 60 or 100 watt chargers. That would be awesome, labeled as such. We have 82.5 miles remaining to get back there. Now, I'm not routing to the actual charger because I don't want the car to precondition and use any juice excessively. So we always route back to the location, just not the charger. And yeah, means I should definitely make it. So I might be doing another short loop on the highway because this thing seems to be relatively conservative in our experience. Really not a fan of the software in many ways. In some ways it's fine, but yeah, there's no way to see what it thinks your state of charge will be, which might be a feature you need Kia Connect for. You might have to pair your phone or activate it in the app somehow. That is not possible here, so I don't really know even why I'm routing. I guess just so I can see the mileage. But that's a bit annoying. Just things are not super intuitive. They don't give you the details you really want. Yeah. And then like once you're back, it's like, okay, how do I get back to just guidance? Like, okay, that works. And then that changed for some reason. I don't know. It's not very intuitive to me. Clicking down there, the press car that I had when I was on the first drive event showed state of charge on arrival there, guesstimation. But it can't do that. The screen doesn't have that option. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not as smart as I'd like it to be. You don't have the ambient lighting either with the base model. That is a slight bummer. The ambient lighting is very nice. I do like it in the premium vehicles. But I'm going to say it's not the end of the world. It's just like, well, that's a slight bummer. This is where it would normally be, inside the lights area, I believe. So that's a bummer. You can adjust the one-touch turn signal. That's nice. I actually prefer 5 flashes personally. I think that's how my personal Miata is set up. Yeah, lots of options. You can really spend a lot of time with the menu. I do encourage looking through that intensely. Anytime you get a car, you should spend some time diving into the settings. Just really familiarize yourself with it. Just in the off chance you're out and about and something's wrong or different, you can refer back to that pretty easily. Digital keys, I think, is standard as well, which is awesome. So you can actually use your phone as a key. You still have the start button, but honestly, hot take, I really like start and stop buttons. Let me control when the car is on and off. Maybe it's just because I'm always filming and the car just turns off when I don't want it to be while I'm filming a clip or something. So it's entirely possible that that's a unique circumstance. Otherwise, yeah, lots of various things in here. I haven't even really fully explored that myself. So I see the irony. It's not lost on me. phone projection, that'd be interesting to play with. So a lot of fun things in there. Let us know if you want to do a whole deep dive, or if you want to see a whole deep dive video on Kia's infotainment system. It's something perhaps we could throw on Out of Spec Guide and really give you guys a whole full look through, full tour, instructions on how to use everything. So it won't tell me state of charge upon arrival, maybe because I haven't paid for that, but it thinks I can't make it. Still won't tell me anything, really? This is yeah, not how it was on the press drive. So I wonder if I really do wonder if it's a Kia connected thing. Although we didn't have those cars connected to our phones, they may have had some special connected thing to that. I don't know. I'm curious if any of you guys know in the comments. You know, ferociously type away, because beats me. It still won't tell me state of charge upon arrival. I'll dig into it a bit more, but for now, all I can go off of is this is 71 miles, this is 70. That being a greater number means safety, in theory. I just missed the 25%, but we are 12 miles from our highway interchange, which will take us back down to 25. So the numbers are going the wrong direction now. So 63 miles to our destination, 58 miles claimed on a charge. So we'll see. And we're also getting, about 2.6 miles per kilowatt hour, so ever so slightly worse, but nearly the same as on the way out. I also want to point out the range guide. So what's pretty wild is this just tells you how much range you could get dependent on your conditions. So when I was at 100%, I should have showed you this, but it was like 375 miles or something like that. And you can even see that now, like multiply that number by 4 or over 4 because of the percentage. And that's what you could see if you drove perhaps very low speed, no climate control, you know, all those crazy things. Or if I just hooned it, I could probably get 44 miles instead of 55. So I expect to make it fine, but yeah, we'll find out. Only one way to know. Have to keep putting this up and down because the sun can't decide what it's doing. So we have 20 kilowatt hours to go, 60 miles to go. So as long as, wait, that means we need 3 miles per kilowatt hour. Oh boy, it's first warning at 20%. It says, please find a charging station. Gives me the option to search or hit okay, because I ignore that. So we are getting ready to turn onto I-25 in about 3.5 miles. Colorado. So we have made it back to our home state. And yeah, there's the famous buffalo up on the hillside there, and our stats so far. Let me go back to that screen wherever the heck it went. Yeah, now at 15% stated charge, so still on track for about the same as what I said earlier. 41 miles, 34 miles, so the delta's been about 8 miles for a while now, so we'll see if that shrinks or grows. Not really sure. I think we actually go down in elevation just a bit, which should help. But I do expect to do at least one loop, give or take. This stupid thing right here, I accidentally hit it with my knee, and I thought I was trying to go into park at 70 miles an hour. I'm glad it didn't. There's a Niro. If you want a hybrid Kia, that's a pretty good one to have, a little bit smaller. Haven't seen any Tellurides out here, but it is interesting that Kia does market this as kind of an electrified Telluride. The pricing starts right around where this car is at, in the mid to high 50s, and that's where the Telluride is maxed out at. So it kind of is the premium electrified Telluride, and they're totally open and even push that narrative at times. Whereas some other manufacturers are like, no, this new electric car is nothing like anything else we have, I swear. So still EGMP platform we know and love from the EV6, so all good with that. We now have the 10% warning. It says range 25 miles, 10% stated charge. Yeah, same situation, just say okay, and that goes away. This delta is back to a more manageable 25, 26.7. So I really do have no doubts, really. But in terms of usable road trippable range, yeah, we just went from 100 to 10, and we've done 237 miles. Most people, I don't think, would road trip this. I mean, that's like the maximum you'd see on a road trip stint. A lot of people would probably pull in more like in the teens, like 15%, and probably start with like 80 to 90. So you're looking at maybe 200 miles between chargers, rough guess, which I think is still doable. I've done plenty of EV road trips with 150 miles between chargers, so that's fine, but it is still nice to know what you can do at 70. Down to 4% state of charge, 10 miles on the guessometer, and only 4 miles to the destination. So I will definitely be hopping to another little loop here. And actually I've been able to stay 70 even with a little bit of traffic, which is great. So we'll see what happens. But I don't know. I'm guessing at this point, we'll beat Kyle's range for sure, but not by much. So it really is kind of a question of like, aero wheels and a heat pump, how much factors does that play? Because otherwise these cars should be operating about the exact same. All right, smart cruise control conditions not met. We do have a turtle, so I have to manually try to keep it at 70 miles an hour. We have officially beat Kyle's original one, so I just looped around. I was actually on the phone with him just confirming a few things. We have a Camaro 6-cylinder ripping in the the lane with his rear lights off or super tinted, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, we are down to 0% state of charge, but on the app situation, we have SoC BMS is 5% still. So we are still okay with that. Now what's great is I still do have lane centering. So all I have to do is really focus on modulating the throttle to try to be as close to 70 as possible. Although this is when Kyle had dipped down to like 60s, so I'm going to keep it under 70. Kyle was down to the 60s and even high 50s here, because that is pretty representative of most of our range tests. I do a bunch of error messages things down the dash, but yeah, we are cruising. We have 3.7 miles back to the charger, so I should be able to hit that easily, but I'm going to keep going until SoC BMS dips below, well, clearly below what it is now. Kyle ran it down to about 1-ish%, so I'm going to plan on doing that, or close to that if I can. Just kind of I'll probably switch to frontage roads at some point, just so I'm not being dangerous on the highway. Okay, and we do have power limited. It will not let me go above 67 miles an hour now. So I'm going to slow down even further, but I don't want to slow down too much because I don't want to lose my momentum. We have 1 mile to our exit, and that is where we will kind of limp back. It says we have 3% BMS left, but the power limiting is concerning. I cannot go any faster. It just keeps slowing down. So I'm hoping we didn't just lose power. Oh, there we go. It's letting me stay at high 50s. That's good to know. But yeah, this thing is not really thrilled right now, I don't think. All right, we definitely have low power, but it's still giving me juice, which means I should be able to limp back to the Electrify America station, which, as I suspected, was one exit back. Didn't quite pay attention on that. So I'm not going to jump back on the highway. I'm just going to play it safer and take just the actual normal roads here. And all right, so much for yielding, Mr. Sir. Yeah, normal roads back to the charger, staying off any sort of speed. In fact, I can barely get any acceleration right now. So I'm going to be limping, I think, the last 2 miles. We're down to 2.5% BMS SoC. So according to Kyle's test, we should have about 1.5% left, which should still be fine. But we are down below. Yeah, we're down to 0 as far as energy available. Obviously 0 right there. So this is pretty on par. We'll see if we make it, but yeah, should be all low speeds now. Speed limit, in fact, is 35. So, and these are like really empty roads, which is great. If I do have to stop moving and we have to get a tow out of here with the trailer, that is totally doable, and we won't be jeopardizing anyone's safety. So we're just using roundabouts here, trying not to slow down too much, but my guesstimation is that it's basically limiting power to about 20 kilowatts. That is the peak of what's showing up in here when you see output in that screen right there. I'm not going to really point at it because I'm trying to drive, but in the basically the top right down one, whatever that is, I'm not seeing it go above 20 no matter what conditions I have it in. So that seems to be the power limitation when you're this low. We are down to 2% SoC BMS, and we are Oh wow, yeah, I have no power. No power. I'm afraid to fully stop here, but I'm still yielding because I'm following traffic laws. Oh man. So yeah, we should roll in right about 1.5% SOC BMS, and we've done 277.3 miles. So nearly identical situation to Kyle's car, but another 11 miles. You might even tack another mile or two onto that, because I wasn't able to push this quite as far as Kyle safely. It keeps dinging, power limited, but there are the final stats. 2.8 miles per kilowatt hour. Took us a little over 4 hours and 277.4 miles. SOC BMS is 1.5%. So maybe could have gotten a couple more miles if we had run out at a more optimal time on the highway. But this is about as good as it gets. So I'm gonna plug in, give you some final thoughts, because this is interesting, this thing right here. The clicking is happening. Electrify America is being flawless for me today. We have the whole place to ourselves as well. This thing has been a trooper, a fantastic road tripper. Just trying to make sure we have charging started. Okay, well, I thought I was gonna have a flawless Electrify America experience today, but I am currently limited by the charger. Not really sure why that happened, but I'm trickling away at 55 kilowatts. I'm gonna try a different charger, but geez, what a day for DC fast charging out here in Northern Colorado. Much better. Second try's a charm. Just reverse that in your head. Or here, I'll make it easy for you. 200 kilowatts. So there you have it. Another out of spec range test properly done in the Kia EV9 Lite. Rear wheel drive, long battery. This is the range king of the EV9. And from what we can tell, roughly 15 miles, give or take, beyond what Kyle did with the GT line. So that's kind of the spectrum supposedly in the large battery. I guess this is the furthest you can go with a large battery. The GT line should be the shortest you can go because of its least efficient wheels and all the other things happening. But it's a very interesting test because I have no heat pump, but I do have more aerodynamic wheels, and I guess slightly less weight. The GT line weighs ever so slightly more than the actual light trim, which I guess called light makes sense. As per usual, you can go about 10 miles below zero. I probably could have gone a little bit further, but this was struggling to get up to 20 miles an hour from a stop, which is sketchy at best. Don't recommend doing any of this. Just enjoy your road tripping in the normal battery range. I'm at, let's see, what's the state of charge? I'm still pulling almost 200 kilowatts at like 60% state of charge. So really decent charging curve from what I can tell. We're still going to come out with a video on that pretty soon here. We're still researching and studying these cars because I think a lot of people are going to buy these. It is basically the electrified Telluride after all, which was a really good seller for Kia. So really curious to see what you guys think of the EV9 as a whole. I think it's a really compelling option, really in any sort of range. So even with the base models, with the cheaper ones, you still get a lot for your money. But then the top trims, you also get a lot for your money. And they end, like it peaks at like $78,000. And that's right where the competition seems to start with the Model X and the Rivian and such. Also, later this year, the EV9 should be built in Georgia. We should be seeing, I think, probably the full tax credit coming to them. Of course, things can change. This is an election year. It's going to get spicy, I'm sure. So we'll see what happens with all that. But let us know what you think of the EV9. Let us know what else you want to know about the EV9. We're hoping to bring you all the nerdy data as per out of spec usual. I'm done talking. Cheers.